So after that thorough and warm welcome, I would just like to say, are there any questions? We can just go straight to the Q&A. Let's just make this really easy. So I put my contact information up there for a reason. I would like to stay in touch. If you have ideas, insights, questions, if you would like me to send you my entire deck, any references to back up the things we talk about, open book. And I mean that. If you need advice on your kids' college applications, I'm in that mode right now. If you have questions about sea turtles, I'm your guy. So beyond Blue Mind. So if you so you can take a photo of that if you have a smartphone and you just want to get in touch on social media. I mean that from my heart. So I want to start out. On your way in, you probably received a blue marble. Hopefully you know where your marble is right now. I'd like you to take just a few seconds and locate that marble and put it in the palm of your hand. I'll do the same thing. I think I've got one here. All right. There's not candy. They're not to be thrown. Hold on. And I'll explain a little more about this blue marble as we go, and it'll become more meaningful. My goal for our time together tonight is very simple. I'd like to remind you of something that you already know. Whoops. So that is the sound of a blue marble breaking a wine glass and then bouncing towards the front of the room. I'm familiar with the sound. I've heard all of. Hang on to your, I should have said this. Hang on to your marbles. By the way, I'm a big fan of B of A. I don't want to just throw you under the bus by signaling you out there. So I have the app on my phone. Hold on to your marble. But take your marble and put it between your thumb and forefinger and hold it out. Put your other three fingers in the air to make a W for water. That's the topic. That's why we're here. All right. And so if you hold your marble out like that, that is what we look like right now from a million miles away. If you could zoom off into whatever you care to zoom in, a million miles away, and look out the back window, that's what you would see. That's how big we look from a million miles away. Of course, from a million miles away, we look like a pale blue dot, as the late, great Carl Sagan would have said. We are a small, blue, water-based planet. We have no idea if there are others like ours. There's a probability equation that you can look that up. For now, as far as we know, this is it. We're not getting planet B anytime soon. We got to take care of planet A with every bit of creativity and passion and effort that we've got. On this little blue water planet, everything we do, the good things and the bad things and the big things and the small things, it all matters. Because this is a relatively small in the universe home. So we need to act like that. So that's what that marble is about. So I want to ask you, before we dive into some of the content here, let's just take 2 minutes. And I'm going to try to hold you to that. It's going to be really difficult. And I want you to turn to someone nearby you. And here's the thing. The person that you're not going home with tonight. All right? You laugh. I don't know why people laugh at that. All right? This is West Palm Beach. You're not supposed to laugh at. All right. You never know. You never know. The bar is closed. All right, just say that. And Caden, my new friend. How old are you, Caden? 12. You might not understand my jokes entirely, but I want you to turn to that person, give them, and if you end up with a group of 3, that's fine. This is good. We're off to a great start. Man, you guys are the best audience ever. I'm not kidding. What the heck? I mean, All right, so take your marble. Let's start over. Take your marble. No, take your marble. Make a W. I want you to turn to your new friend and exchange your marbles. And it's a very simple. Wait, I'm not done with the instructions. I want you to exchange your blue marble with your friend. So give yours to them and accept theirs. And here's the question. You each get 1 minute. I'm going to try to hold you to this. What is your water? What is the water that you fell in love with for the first time? What is the water? You can go back. It might be recent. It might be way back. But that was your water. That was the lake, the river, the pool, the ocean, the pond that just lit you up. In it, near it, whatever the activity was, just name it. Share let's call it a micro story, because this is not the epic story of your life with water. This is a micro story. You each have 1 minute. Share your story, and then listen to your partner's story very carefully. That's important. So share your stories. What's your water, the water you first fell in love with? Go. Over to you. So by only gauging from the volume in the room, you enjoyed that. That seemed to be an interesting question for what I think is one of the great water-loving communities on the planet. Would be if you have the word beach in your name, you kind of have to embrace this idea. I heard several stories. Sam told me about Lake Winnipesaukee. Anybody been to Lake Winnipesaukee? All right. One of the truly great gems of waters of our country. Dale told me about the Delaware River and bathing, rather than there wasn't running water, but bathing with soap in the river as a daily ritual. And the memories. Sometimes I ask that question and it opens up a treasure trove of memories that people haven't considered for a while. Let's put it that way. Sometimes it goes pretty deep. Sometimes did it get emotional at all for anyone? Yeah. Did thinking about the water you fell in love with perhaps reminded you of the people that maybe were with you or maybe were your guides who may not be with us any longer? Those joyful, important, deep, and I'll use the word spiritual experiences that water provides the context for throughout our lives, not just early, but throughout hopefully every day of our lives in some way. And this for me, water has been I would say my best friend since I was very young. And I'll tell you a little story about that. But I always wondered about why, as a scientist, we weren't allowed to talk about this stuff, because it's the driver of the whole show. It's the engine of the whole train for getting anything done in conservation. If you don't have deeply emotionally committed and passionate people, you're going nowhere. You will not be successful. It's not just about throwing money at problems. I'm not saying we don't need funding for a lot of these projects, but it's more than that. And the unstoppable people become unstoppable because of this connection, and whether it's water or wildlife, forests, all kinds of natural settings. So I want to kind of unpack, in a way, we could rest our case right now and say your stories are sufficient to make the case for Blue Mind. Because they are. Because the collective experience, the emotional health benefits of your water that you've experienced going way back, all the way up until today, are very clear and they're very real in your lives. Does anybody want to share? We'll do one from each side. Does anybody want to share not the story you told, but a story you heard. So if that was a micro story, what I'm asking for is a nano story, not a soliloquy, just to be clear. Sometimes you let go of the microphone and it's over. You've been there, right? Yeah. So does anybody want to share something they heard? Would you like to? Yes, please stand up and share. Yeah, all right, you've got a microphone coming. Oh, yes, you. All right.
Okay, so in honor of my friend here, Jeannie, and I met Jeannie at the last event here. So Jeannie told me a very intimate story. She grew up in Chicago, and her neighbors had fancy landscaping and all sorts of ponds, but she had a small pond where stop me if I'm wrong, she raised koi, and she looked down at the koi pond, and it meant so much to her. And then in winter, she protected the koi and made sure that they'd make it to spring, and that was her signs to make it to the next year.
Wonderful. Anyway. Beautiful story and very well shared. Thank you. And we have another volunteer from this side of the room who may have heard a story that they may want to share. And if we don't have a volunteer, I'm really good at selecting random participants. Linda, would you perhaps have okay, you can do both. Yeah, here we go. And point the camera at Linda while she speaks.
I got a chance to share and hear a lovely story about remembrances of the Atlantic Ocean and growing up on Long Island in the summers where everything was a more slower pace and laid back and natural, where the beach cabanas were out of just little wood, and it was a softened time. And thank you so much for sharing with me.
All right, very nice. Yeah. So our water stories will range from koi pond to Long Island Sound, I imagine, or perhaps the Atlantic Ocean, to Lake Winnipesaukee, to the Delaware River, to the Pacific Ocean, to the Great Lakes, to all of the great waterways, great and small waterways that we are so blessed to have as a nation and as a planet. It really is phenomenal that we have this resource that not only gives us our economy and ecological health, but also gives us our emotional health. And that's really where I'm going to go here, is to dive into this concept of Blue Mind, which is really all about this blue marble that we live on. So this blue marble has become the kind of the symbol, I would say maybe the totem, for this conversation. And your responsibility now that you have passed your blue marble once is to hang on to it. And I'm going to ask you to give your marble away someday. Take your time. It may be tomorrow, and it may be 10 years from now. But I want you to give carry it with you, and give it to someone that you really want to thank. And embellish the story. Tell them your version of what we talk about tonight. Let them know that you got the blue marble here at the zoo. Let them know the context, and you know these amazing events. You can reflect on that if it connects to it. So some of you may have described, like my new friend Dale, your backyard. Literally down the road a couple steps, you find the beach, and that's true here in the town with beach in its name. You better have a beach nearby if beach is in your name. And so for some people it's the Atlantic Ocean, our local ocean. Maybe your Blue Mind experience, your story was facilitated by a boat of some sort, a kayak, a canoe, a sailboat, a fishing boat. Anybody mentioned boats in their conversation? So a few boaters. Right? That's a little Martha's Vineyard photograph there. For some of us, the whole aquatic experience is enhanced by the visitation of wildlife. Have you ever been on the bow of a boat and had these folks come visit you? And it's, the bow riding, when the dolphins bow ride, everybody goes to the bow. Hopefully the captain does not go to the bow. Hopefully the captain stays at the helm. But everybody else goes to the bow. And the dolphins decide when the fun is over. And then they just take off, they dive, and they move away. And it's just and everybody, the joy from that is among the greatest joys in our lives when we get to be in their presence. And everybody's happy for a while. It takes a while for that to wear off. And you see it, you feel it, right? Or maybe you've been out on the ocean and purposefully whale watching or accidentally whale watching, and you had this kind of experience. Right? Again, stunning, awe-inspiring, and for some people, transcendent. Some of the people I know who fight the hardest for marine mammals trace their commitment back to a singular experience, a transformative moment on the water, eye to eye, with the animal that they fight for and they work to protect. So these experiences, I'm not talking about the digital experience of the screen, I'm talking about the real thing of inhaling the exhale of a whale because it's so close, right? These are the experiences that create our blue mind. Sometimes it's a seasonal freshwater experience. Maybe that might remind you a little bit of Lake Winnipesaukee, right? Right? The changing of the seasons and how our waters reflect back to us our lives and our changing lives and the moods, whether it's seasonal or personal, right? The water is always reflecting us back to ourselves in different ways. It's different moods. Maybe your water is remember third grade, solid, liquid, gas? All right. Fog and clouds, water. Ice and snow, also water. So we are very ecumenical about our water in this room tonight. We invite all snow and ice lovers and cloud and fog lovers to join the conversation. Lakes, rivers, oceans. Lake Superior, the ice caves. Anybody ever been to the Apostle Islands? Formative experience for me in high school up in the Apostle Islands, Lake Superior. Let's bring it a little closer to home. On your way into this wonderful place, the Palm Beach Zoo, you pass the interactive fountains. I had the best parts of today were watching kids interact with their water and watching the parents watch their kids interact with the water. The parents got a moment of peace. They could see their kids. They could make sure everything was okay. They could see their kids were joyful and happy and playing. And it's a nice moment. And so when we are sort of together interacting and playing, water is so playful. So many of the stories I heard involve play, right? Playing with your friends, playing with your siblings, playing with the people you love, and just enjoying your water. Sometimes our water is the virtual kind, and by virtual I don't mean digital, I mean a depiction through art. Some of the great art depicts water. You can think of your own examples of that, both modern and classic. This is my friend Ran Ortner. His studio is just under the Manhattan Bridge on the Brooklyn side. If you're ever over there, stop by, tell him I sent you. He paints massive triptychs of the surface of the ocean. And he puts about 4 or 5 inches of paint on the canvas. And it luminesces because if you're familiar with that much paint, the light and the texture of it, and it takes him a long time to do these paintings. And any artists in the room, or any art fans, art aficionados? Well, if you know the New York art scene, you'll appreciate this. So when they say, why do you paint water? And Rand's answer is, because I love it. That is completely unacceptable in the New York art scene. Where's the irony? Where's the angst? Where's the double or triple entendre? You paint water because you love it, and That's too earnest, in fact. But that's what he does, and he's a master. So Rand Ortner, I'm just a big fan of his work. Dale and I had a lovely conversation about music and water. Handel's water music, you familiar? Composed to be performed on a barge on the water. It was explicitly composed for this purpose, to be heard, experienced while floating on water. Right? So water in its virtual form brings us joy, brings us happiness, connects us. The great Tom Waits and Bruce Springsteen, both any Jersey folks. All right, there we go. I was born in Manhattan, but I went to school in Bergen County, and Westwood and Woodcliff Lake, for those who are familiar. So I'm a Springsteen fan. Because down the shore, everything's all right. What did he mean? Why is everything all right down at the shore? How is that even possible that everything, not a couple things are okay. He doesn't say, because down the shore, a couple things are a little bit better. No, because down the shore, every single damn thing is all right. So you get down with your baby on a Saturday night, if you know the song Jersey Girl, and that's the place. That is the place. So look up the song Jersey Girl if you're not familiar and jam it out tonight. But Tom Waits wrote it, and Springsteen probably popularized it. Okay, we'll go back a little bit. Singing in the Rain. There's another reflection on water. Singing in the Rain. How many people, when it rains, do you run inside? No. Run outside, and please, here's your homework assignment, besides the marble. Next time it rains, it's coming soon, promise that. In California, different story, but here, it's coming. Pick a song, bring your baby, whoever that is, and run outside and sing. Enjoy the heck out of the rain. We don't do that often enough. There's a whole movie about it, and it's something, and it's a good movie, by the way. So, if you need a refresher, Netflix Singing in the Rain, and get out there. One of my favorite poets, Pablo Neruda. Any Pablo Neruda fans? All right. Great. You can never tell if Mr. Neruda was writing about the ocean or his lover or both. Sometimes it's very unclear. El hombre en el océano se desuelve como un ramo de sal, en el agua no lo sabe. That means, for non-Spanish speakers, in the ocean, man dissolves like a grain of salt. And the water doesn't know. Probably doesn't care. All right? That's humility. That's the humility piece. So we're inspired to make music, to make art, to make film, to celebrate, to make nostalgia and memories that we'll carry with us. And for parents and grandparents and aunts and uncles, that's our job. Help our children fall completely head over heels in love with our waters, because those are the people who will fight to protect them for the long haul. And those are the memories that we will rely on when we get together and tell our stories. And some of the most joyful moments of our lives, music, water, good food, great conversations. And there you go, the poetry of water. All right, another little journey here. That's 7 Academy Awards up in the right-hand corner there. That is Morgan Freeman, who played the character Red in Shawshank Redemption. Right at the end of the film, right? He's out of prison, out of jail. He's meeting his friend in Zihuatanejo. The last line, literally, of the film. I hope the Pacific is as blue as it's been in my dreams. I hope. And the rejoinder there is, and it is. And it is. He dreamed his way to the Pacific, far, far away. He took buses and probably hitchhiked and got there. Great film, one of the all-time great Blue Mind films. There are a few more. Here's another one, Moonlight. Remember that one? Academy Award. 8 Academy Awards, 8. I think water was robbed. Water should have won at least 1 Academy Award. Best supporting actor or actress, he was robbed. Water. So here, if anybody has any influence at the Academy, I would, in all seriousness, I would like Water to win one of the Lifetime Achievement Awards. Wouldn't that be epic? So many great films. Water plays a major role, makes the film work. If you don't believe me, I'm going straight to the heart of the matter here. 13 Academy Awards, microphone drop on that one. Shape of Water. There is no mistaking that imagine this film without the water. The shape of dust, the shape of air, the shape of grass, the shape of Jell-O. I don't know. The shape of water, that works. Not gonna happen. All right, so I worked on a great project where my colleagues and I shared whale songs with a group of a dozen, I think it was 11 musicians, and said, here's your whale song, compose around this animal's music. Join in, it's not just the whale song, but it required the human whale collaboration. And we'll see how this goes. Hang on a second. Whoops, that didn't. Oh, I had all that buildup and it's, let me see. There we go. All right, there we go. Close your eyes for a second. The screen will not change. You won't miss anything. These are the animals we share this little blue marble with. They're singing right now, wherever they are. Their music touches us. It moves us emotionally. And I know at least one person teared up listening to, because it was me. I can't help it. I listen deeply to these animals, and I just feel so fortunate to be on this planet with them and listen to their songs, to have the ability, and we have the technology to bring their song into this room. Just how many people felt a little more relaxed when you closed your eyes and listen to this? Right? Maybe it takes you into a creative space. Maybe it connects you to the now, to the moment, to the people around you, to yourself, to your own body. So that's what water and nature and wildlife can do for us. I'm going to show you this is a little trailer to a film series we did. It's just a couple minutes long. And we'll give you some visual and a little bit of context on the Blue Mind science and practice. So let me play that just for a minute. The best way to understand Blue Mind is to first understand Red Mind. We're anxious, we're stressed, and that takes its toll. You're going to break down, you're going to fall apart. That's where Blue Mind comes in. Water is really the basis of life. We are all made of mostly water. We all spent the first 9 months of our lives swimming around in this dark watery pool called our mother. You need water to survive, but you also need water to thrive. Getting us more towards a Blue Mind state is really important for our personal health, for the health of our families, of our communities, and even our country. We get so much from the waters of the world, and we have so much we can give back. And when that connection starts to flow,
amazing things can happen.
So that's really the goal. Yeah, if you're interested in seeing, it's a 12-part series that we did, and it's available online. I'm happy to send you the link to all of those. So someone asked me, what's your water? And it turns out my answer is more of a who than a what. This is my adoptive father. We share the same name. He's the one who introduced us as kids, my adoptive brother and my 3 foster sisters, to our water, taught us to swim and dive, and shared his love of water. And that translated into, so Caden, that's when I was about your age. That's when it all happened. I felt like the best version of myself on that day. It was in the Rocky Mountains at Deep Lake. I can remember the feel of the grass in my toes. That animal was named Daisy. She just drank and drank and drank the water. We swam in that very cold lake. We caught trout. We cooked them. It was icy. We bathed in it. And I felt so alive and so connected. And the water was one of the protagonists in that story. I just love remembering that through sharing this photo. I also, at that age, I really loved turtles. And this is the best photo I have of myself with a turtle. That's me, that's the turtle. We used to catch snapping turtles in the Chesapeake Bay, and we'd print numbers on their shells and throw them back. And then we'd do algebra to try to figure out how many turtles were in the bay after we recaptured a few. Did not publish that study. Some serious design flaws, but it influenced me greatly to the point where I became a sea turtle biologist. And I see turtles everywhere I go. And there's, in a room of this many people, there's 1 or 2 people who look like turtles to me. And usually it's the people who laugh the loudest at that joke, you know who you are. And it's a good thing, it's a compliment in my lexicon. All right, so Dale asked me to share this story, to make sure I share this story. I was a graduate student at the University of Arizona, which is where all the great marine biologists went to school. Yes, in the middle of the Sonoran Desert. But the great thing about the University of Arizona in Tucson is you just, a few clicks down the road, you're in Baja, Mexico. And it is an epic place to study the ocean. So my colleagues and I, back in 1996, this is an animal, she lived in captivity for 10 years. And we were able to release her at adult size. We put that satellite transmitter on her back. So again, 1996. Transmitter, about the size of a double iPhone, basically, with a little antenna. Named her Adelita, after the fisherman's daughter who helped us with the attachment process. And was very kind, and the project wouldn't have happened without him. So we named the turtle Adelita, which, if you're familiar with Mexican history, the female protagonist in the Mexican Revolution was named Adelita. She brought food and arms to the front lines. Right? So if you ever see a taco stand called La Adelita, named after her, she's a generally buxom, lot of hair and bandolier and a rifle. Huge character. There's a wonderful corrido called La Adelita. So if you ever happen to be around a mariachi band, ask them to play La Adelita, por favor. And they will say, oh, the good song. And you'll surprise them, and they will play you a beautiful corrido called La Adelita about, not the turtle, about the revolutionary figure. So, slight digression. We released Adelita, and the interesting thing about this little video that my friend Bob Snodgrass filmed, and he was at Scripps, is she'd been in captivity for 10 years. She gets released, and it's going to come around again. She swims through the water about the diameter of the tank that she'd lived in, and then she pauses. All right, watch it. Here, she goes in, swim, 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 and then right about there, she pauses, and then starts to swim again. Very subtle. You could almost miss it. She didn't just swim and keep swimming. She paused as if to say, where's the tank wall? Finding no wall, she keeps swimming. So we all have, so she imagined the wall. We all have imaginary walls in our lives. The imaginary ones we can swim through. And on the other side of the wall is our life, is our calling, is our destiny, is the thing we're here to do. Not to get all like weird California on you or anything, but you know it's true. I mean, you know, you've experienced those walls, those ideas you made up that almost stopped you from doing the thing that you do so well. You know what I'm talking about. Adelita knows what I'm talking about. So on the other side of her wall was the rest of her life, her purpose. She needed to make more baby turtles to save the Pacific loggerheads from extinction. That's her job. And on the other side of her wall was a vast Pacific Ocean. It turned out that her nesting beach was not in Baja California, not in Hawaii, but in Japan. So she swam 7,000 miles across the North Pacific, making her way home. And we were getting this data, and my grad school advisors were saying, I wanted to share it. They said, don't share it. People will steal your turtle data. And I thought, what would they do with stolen turtle data? And I couldn't conceive of anything bad they could possibly do with my turtle data. It wasn't even mine, it's her data. And so we put Adelita's track on the internet, and millions of people traveled with her virtually. This is back in 1996 and 97. The internet was young. There wasn't a lot of other things to do, I guess. Oop. That's my wife. Sorry. So you done yet? And she made it all the way home to her natal Japan. So first animal ever tracked across an entire ocean, rewrote the oceanography textbooks, and probably the most important thing for me very personally is my daughter, who may have been on the phone right there, Grace, who's on her way to college next year. Well, she's taking the pre-SAT, the PSAT, the pre-SAT that you take before the SAT, before you go to college. The reading comprehension essay on the PSAT was about Adelita. I swear. She came home and she said, and I'll quote, "Your dumb turtle was the reading comprehension essay." But I detected a little bit of, so if you're a parent or a grandparent or aunt and uncle of a teenage, particularly a daughter, you get 15 seconds of cool if you're lucky. That was mine. That was it. It was a weird, like, Dad, I'm okay with you for 15 seconds. It didn't last long. It really is long gone. And you know what I'm talking about. But this turtle has gotten into our hearts and our minds. And teachers all over the country were tracking her, sharing the track. Kids were learning algebra. Kids were writing poetry about her. Kids were learning math, they were learning science, they were learning geography and oceanography through this turtle story. So storytelling, real life experiences, so important to learning. And that was the first clue that I had that going straight into the scientific journals is not enough. Sharing as widely as possible, moving people emotionally and intellectually and rationally, all of it. Yes, all of it. Not just rationally, intellectually, but all of it. That's how you solve problems. We've got problems, big problems to solve. And so if I just took Adelita's data, went straight to the Bulletin of Marine Science where it's published, and ignored all the other storytelling and working with great filmmakers, and like our friend Lisa Grossman, and really just like hats off to you, Katie, for that part of the process, sharing great science through film. Wow, it's just, most people don't go into the library stacks and pull out those journal articles. I can tell you exactly how many people have downloaded the journal article about Adelita. It's in the hundreds, and how many people have watched these little films in probably the millions. So I went to the 24th grade, which my kids think is ridiculous. And you could do the math. That's high school times 2. And what I learned in my various degrees is that about the ecological benefits of a healthy planet, the economic benefits, the jobs and the economy, super important, both. And then the educational benefits, and that's the pride and joy of places like the zoo and aquariums and schools and camps is teaching about the ecological and economic benefits. But what I didn't learn in those 24 grades is about the emotional benefits. The science behind the emotional health benefits of an intact ecosystem. Our waters, our forests, our green space, our blue space, and our wildlife provide so many. You told your stories to each other. Those are the emotional benefits. They form who we are. They give us our dignity and so much more. They give us our places to relax and go back and fight for what we love. And if we're not teaching that, we're not telling the whole story, not by a long shot. And I don't know why it's dialed out of our curriculum, but we're going to change that. And I'm really excited about the conversations I've had the last few days here in West Palm Beach and here at the zoo in particular about how we're going to change that. And I'll get to that in a minute. I asked our ambassadors to describe the emotional health benefits of water. 100 words, and there are more, but I picked the top 100. They are in alphabetical order. Some of those may jump out to you. Love. Has anybody ever had a romantic experience near water? You laugh because you don't even have to raise your hand. All right. Has anybody ever felt their creativity maybe move to the next level because of being by water? It's kind of almost cliche that writers and musicians and poets and entrepreneurs go to the water to clear their mind, to think creatively, and then they produce what makes life worth living, right? It's happened throughout human history. Look around the list, and has anybody ever gone to the water for a sense of reconciliation, forgiveness, reconnection, perhaps letting something go? Maybe you've gone to the water to memorialize someone. Have you ever been at a memorial service near or on the water? Scattered ashes over the water. Why do we do that? It's because of this deep emotional connection we have to this blue space, to the water. I'm not going to go through every single word on the list, I promise. So that's Blue Mind. Blue Mind is about that positive emotional connection to water, all of the vast, measurable, and studyable emotional benefits. Being immersed in your water, maybe you're swimming and you see, I see a whale, or you see an eel, or you see a fish, or you swim through kelp. That feeling of gratitude and empathy and connection that we get when we serve these animals that need our help. This guy here in Florida, right? I could substitute yourself, substitute your kids or your grandkids into this photo. He's not going to forget that day, ever. That's formative, transformative moment, right? That's happening right there. Notice one thing about this photo. Where's the smartphone? He's not on an iPad. He's not on a smartphone. He's tuned in with that animal, deeply emoting with that animal, wondering and imagining, where did that leatherback sea turtle come from, and where is it going, and what is it doing? It's just a moment right there. Urban water as well, fountains in our cities, right? We go to the fountains. We build them, and then we use them. They're a source of creativity and relaxation. When we play in the water, as I saw with the fountain here at the zoo, all kinds of things are happening. Right? The science of play, the neuroscience of play, is increasingly clear. We need play. Not just as kids, we need play throughout our lives to continue to be creative. Now, here's probably the topic that's not not everybody's favorite, is the reason we need blue mind so much is something I call red mind. And I didn't give out any red marbles. I've wondered sometimes maybe I should give out one red marble in the mix of all the blue marbles, but then the person who got the red one might be sort of damaged for life because of it. So I've shied away from that. But the red marble represents red mind, which, by the way, is very, very useful. It's where we live most of the time. It's our activated, it's prefrontal cortex, executive function, problem solving, information coming in from every direction. We are, I would say over-connected, but we're connected, we're active, we're problem solvers. It's not our creative mode, it's our active problem solving mode, right? And it's overwhelming us because we're receiving more information on a daily basis than our ancestors received throughout their entire lifetimes. So we're being overwhelmed with red mind. Red mind is useful. It's how we put people on the moon. It's how we solve problems. It's how we win races. It's how we do a lot of things that are important. But if it's all you have, it's not good. We have the APA does an annual, American Psychological Association does an annual report on stress in America. It's hitting all-time highs for a number of reasons: economic, political, technology, you name it, right down the list. It's affecting our youth. And if you have a young person in your life, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Our kids are having a hard time disconnecting from technology. They, in fact, find it painful. If you take their phone away, you may get hurt. You may experience a real meltdown. Our house is outside of cell range, and when our friends bring their kids over, as we're going down the road, I say, you've got 10 seconds until you lose all connectivity. And they go, what? And then there's a complete freak out in the back seat, and they try to do whatever they need to do on Instagram or Snapchat or TikTok. I don't know what's going on anymore. And they do it as fast as they can, and at 4, 3, 2, 1, it's over. No more cell service. And then they have to actually listen to the sounds and talk to each other. So even, I had to bring it back thanks to my previous lecture. Unfortunately, even the primates are getting red mind. And it's kind of funny and sort of sad. And he's probably just jamming away, posting all kinds of stuff on social media, and tweeting away, I guess you might say. And if you could, you would sign up for this. You would go in and have that monkey mind removed. Unfortunately, that procedure is not currently available. But the good news is that there's something even better. It's called Blue Mind. It's not a surgical procedure. It's a behavioral procedure. It's an adjustment in lifestyle and priorities to move yourself without your technology to the water, near, in, on, or under the water. We've got a problem in our country. It's not just the opioid crisis, the self-medication crisis. People are making choices to handle their stress and anxiety that create more stress and anxiety, do not solve the problem. And as a result, we collectively need to figure this out. It's a crisis. I see it everywhere. I've been to every state in the country talking about this stuff. Front page news and every small town newspaper connects in one way or another to the self-medication crisis. So what happens if you stay in blue mind too long? Gray mind, and that's burnout. That is no good. Red mind, useful. Blue mind, useful. Gray mind, useless.
But gray matter is a storage facility.
Right, gray matter is good. Right, that's different. Gray mind, burnout, breakdown, disconnection, not where you want to go. Perhaps mild depression. Right? I'm not going to linger on this topic long, but that is what we want to avoid. Our first responders, our veterans, people in high pressure, high anxiety careers experience this. They will if they aren't already. Let's go back to blue mind, all right? I could feel the mood just drop. Let's bring it back up. So we want to avoid gray mind. We want to harness our red mind in its proper utility mode, and we want to move back and forth between blue and red mind in a productive way. And I don't use the word balance because my life has never really felt balanced. It's always felt like creative disequilibrium. That's the term I prefer over balance. That's a whole other lecture. We could talk about that. So if you're wondering, okay, my friend, I'm with you. I told my story. I got my marble. But I thought you were a scientist. My book has 30 pages of citations if you want to dig deep. And the 5 years since my book came out, there are probably 200 pages more of research on point that bolds and underlines what we're talking about. That the natural world is medicine, that our wildlife and our waterways are medicine for those who need it most and everyone else. Clinical studies, this is just a paper I included by a team. Matt White is at the University of Exeter Medical School, clinical psychologist. Just a systematic review of all of the studies. Takeaway point, and this will sound familiar, the research is clear, this is real, but we need more research, which is always what researchers say at the end of their research paper. Because after all, they're researchers. They want to do more research. It's kind of like Army Corps of Engineers they will always give you an engineering solution, not a social solution, right? So that's what you'll see over and over again. The research is clear, it's more clear, we need more research. So here's my kind of where we pivot from kind of the theory and the personal to what can we do with this idea? So Blue Mind exists, it's real. You can go to Google Scholar and look up blue space and you will lose the rest of your day if you're interested in. Apologies in advance. How do we move to action? What are we going to do about it? We can study it forever, and we will. Promise. Promise. Academics will study it forever. But how do we, the rest of us, put it into action? So that's the question. What if? What if we were employing Blue Mind in a clinical hospital setting? What if we were putting it into use with those who need it most? And this young woman is at UCSF. And here's a little, I'll back up there before I go there. She is looking at virtual dolphins. She is in the hospital because she's in a lot of pain. She has a very serious disease. And looking at virtual dolphins is helping her manage her pain. So if virtual dolphins help us manage our pain, imagine what real dolphins could do for us emotionally and physically. I don't have to imagine, I know. I know it makes me feel better. I had some conversations today. I had a conversation with Thad, who is one of the animal trainers. And he told me he's been having neck, is Thad still here? Is Thad here? See, Thad. He was telling me, I'm gonna sort of embellish this slightly, but some neck and shoulder pain. And when he was working with the tigers, the pain goes away. Am I right? Right, I got that right. So keep that in mind as we go along here. It's not just whales and dolphins, not just tigers. It's getting outside of ourselves and being part of something bigger than ourselves. This is a great book by Naoki Higashida, young man, Japanese man with autism on the spectrum. And he read all the books that the adults had written about his situation, and he thought they were all not so good. So he wrote his own book. And what he said in his book is that in the water, he feels whole. In the water, there's a whole essay about his connection with water. In the water, he feels free. In the water, he feels like us. Outside of the water, it's all noise and distraction and chaotic. And I would say we're all with him somewhere on that spectrum in this modern world. You can call it what you want to call it. In the water, we get ourselves back. We get peace. We get centeredness. We get quiet. And as a kid, Caden, when I was your age, I stuttered to the point where you wouldn't want to listen to me read one line out of the phone book, let alone speak all this time. It was unbearable. I stuttered so badly. But in the water, I didn't stutter because nobody talked to me. So it was my happy place. And I thought, I got to find a career that keeps me in the water. Pro surfing wasn't happening. So I decided to be a marine biologist. My dad said Jacques Cousteau has that job already. Pick something else. Unfortunately, I kept going and realized there were more opportunities than that one. But it started because I found peace and got away from my introversion and stuttering by being in the water. And that lasted all the way through graduate school, and I figured out how to control it. Which you may have noticed, if I'll get a little personal here, I have strange pauses in my speaking style. And when I pause, it's just me not making noises that make no sense. So it's a little secret. I don't usually share that, but y'all feel like family already. So this is my friend Martin Pollock. He's from Cornwall, England, served in Afghanistan, came home with one of his arms and neither of his legs. He said, I'm going to be a blob on the bar stool in the pub with my mates. That's my life. Got hooked up with Operation Surf. You see their logo down there. Learned to surf. And now he is a Blue Mind ambassador. And what he says, the ocean gave me my life back. I am a warrior for the ocean now. Do we need men and women like Martin on our team? Heck yes. Should we have more people like them? Yes. Our veterans, our first responders who find healing in the water, in nature, need to be our spokespeople. That just cuts across all kinds of weird political, partisan, left, right, up, down, blue, red issues we're dealing with as a nation and as a world, and goes right to the heart of the matter. These waters, when they're healthy, take care of those who need it most and everyone else. Any sort of disease, disorder, or illness will be extended by stress. We know that. That's med school 101, right? Any doctors here, you familiar with cortisol? Cortisol, inflammation. Stress extends the healing process. If you're really stressed out and your cortisol levels are way up, more inflammation, slower healing. Just pretty elegant, simple story. If you can reduce your stress, you can speed up the healing. One of the best ways to reduce your stress would be, one way is to go hang out by the water. So seeing people in wheelchairs at the beach, at the pier, that's medicine. That should be added into the toolkit. This is a hospital in Israel. In the basement, they have a pool, and my friend runs the aquatics program there. Every one of those wheelchairs represents a human being who is in the pool for a variety of reasons that they're in the hospital. But she brought the whole staff into the pool and said, this is how it works, and if this seems to work for you, maybe you could prescribe it for your patients. And she gets a whole range from psychiatric to post-op to a whole bunch of stuff her patients get in the water. That's Jarmila. My friend Greg Schwartz visited her in the nursing home where she'd been for many years with Alzheimer's. He said, Jamila, what would you like to do? I'd like to see the ocean again. I haven't seen it in a long time. I love the ocean. Got her there. She stood up, scooted forward, spent some time there. Back in the nursing home, he said, Jarmila, I didn't know you could still stand and walk. And she said, I haven't had a reason to stand and walk for a long time. So her love of the ocean compelled her to move her body in a way she hadn't in a while. That's Naoki's quote there, Naoki Higashida. And the water is so quiet and I'm so free and happy there. And he goes on to explain his relationship to water. This is not a new idea. It's about as old as ideas get. And all the Epic of Gilgamesh, if you read that, the first available written story in human history, there's a great scene in there where the man and the woman go down to the pond and hang out and they have a little romance. It's very Blue Mind. The 23rd Psalm, all spiritual traditions refer to Blue Mind. 23rd Psalm, anybody familiar with that? That to me is the Blue Mind Psalm, which I'll paraphrase it and pardon my French in advance. When the shit hits the fan, get your butt down to the water, saith the Lord. That's what go back and read it. That's what it says. Yea, though I walk through the valley of shadow, I shall fear no evil. And get to the water. Get to the meadow by the water. That's what it says. King David wrote that 3,000 years ago. 3,000 years ago. Put that in writing. Bad day, red mind, go to the water. Blue mind. That's what it says, right there. Look it up. Weren't expecting this, perhaps. Our First Lady, Melania Trump. I'm a passionate believer in integrating, interpreting nature's elements into our daily lives to create a warm, nurturing, and positive environment. These natural benefits can be instrumental in enhancing the health and well-being of all children. Wow. I hope they talk about this at night in the evening back over there. And I mean, this is important. I hope this is a topic of discussion. She said this several times publicly at Children's National in Washington, D.C., hospital. That's the quote that goes with Brianna, the young woman with the headset there, swimming with dolphins in virtual reality. So the science is clear. The popularization is happening through writing and through film and all sorts of projects. I highly recommend, that's the book I wrote, Blue Mind, specifically about water. Flo Williams wrote a wonderful book called Nature Fix. And most recently, Dick Louvre wrote another great book. He's written several. And this one is about wildlife and how wildlife does this too, by spending our time with nature. And I call that wildlife conservation therapy. And the big piece of this is, if it's just all about you, well, that might not sit quite right. But if there's a service piece, it's transformative. Whether we're working with first responders or veterans or the general public, the service piece is what kind of adds an extra piece to it. Groups like Force Blue, a group of special ops veterans working to restore coral reefs and restore themselves. It's really, really working. My friend Dr. Paul Piff, University of California at Irvine, he studies awe and wonder, the science of awe and wonder, and he has found that water is the greatest source of awe and wonder on our planet. Transforms us, changes our perspective, builds empathy. So I'm going to wrap it up here. Here at the zoo, not only is this a center for conservation and education, we're working on the ecological benefits, the educational benefits, and of course the economic benefits. We're building empathy and compassion. When people fall in love with nature while they're visiting here, we have a little empathy problem as humans. We need more to fix these problems that we're experiencing, the big various crises. We need to care more for each other and the natural world. And you can learn empathy and you can build it, or you can avoid it and wreck it. So when we get kids out onto the water and have these experiences, listening and seeing whales and dolphins and fish and coral reefs and wildlife and birds, when we get into the water, near the water, on the water, in the water, when we learn to have fun, learn a skill, paddling or surfing or sailing or diving, we're building not just physical health, but emotional health, building a stronger generation. And it is that eye-to-eye connection, is having that transformative experience close up with nature, completely immersed in the elements, immersed in the water, that is, I think, gives me the hope for solving the biggest problems. Now, of course, if we wreck the place, it's a very different story. If you go to the beach and you're spending all your time cleaning up plastic or dealing with an oil spill or fighting off any sort of pollutant, that's more red mind. So yet another reason to fix what's broken in ourselves and in our waters and in our wild world, and that all works together. It's a very positive regenerative feedback loop when it's working. Right? The service piece, the seeing the results of your service, and then offering the clean beach to joyful activities, to connective activities, to romantic activities. So bring it back to this simple gesture. Started out by just on your way in gifting you a blue marble, and you probably thought, what the heck's this? Why am I getting a blue marble? What's this for? And now maybe a deeper idea that it is a gesture of gratitude from us, from Dale, from myself, and from Margot, and from the entire zoo staff to you. Say thank you. Thank you for coming tonight. Thank you for doing all the great things you do every day to make our world a better place, helping people, helping our natural world. Thank you. It matters. It matters a lot. And pass along that gratitude, because I think gratitude is one of our superpowers. We don't use it nearly enough. Thank you like you mean it works. Thank you like you mean it with a blue marble gift works even better. So pass your marble along to those you want to share this story with. Tell your version of the story about your water, what it means to you. Ask the person you speak to what's their water. What's their water they would fight for, that they care about, that formed them. And if you have any questions about this, please get in touch. And I'm feeling kind of compelled to kind of put a point on this. And I spent the day walking around the zoo speaking with Margot and Stacy and the staff and learning about tigers with Thad and the team. And my opinion, after spending 2 days here at Dale's house and at the zoo, is that this community has the potential to be a leader in sharing. Our goal is to share a blue mind with everyone on Earth, that make sure everybody understands this. I think zoos and aquariums, science centers and nature centers are going to be the front line for this. And my proposal, I guess let's call it a challenge, is for your community, for this zoo, to be a leader. And I want to kind of put that on the table here tonight and say, I'd like to see Blue Mind Science show up in the training, in the talking points, and even in the displays here at the zoo during 2020. And I don't want to put Margot on the spot too much by putting that on the table publicly without a board meeting. Apologies to board members, or without getting the funding first. But I'm willing to be the first contributor to that fund. And can I put you on?
Whose idea was this to bring this guy here? So first of all, we do have a board member here, Dale. So Dale, it can just rest on your shoulders. But I accept that challenge. You know, the zoo has been talking about how can we become for this community even more powerful. And when we walked around with you looking at not just the water, but the animals and the powerful effect it has on the people that work here and the community. And you had a really, I thought, creative way of step one. Certainly we've got lots of steps, but can you kind of explain an idea that I feel like this room would be interested in hearing?
Yeah, well, we were walking around today, and there were several spots throughout the facility, throughout the zoo, that were very Blue Mind. There's a waterfall, there's the fountain, and I thought, you know what? What if we asked everyone that is let's just say a super zoo user, whether it's the staff, some of you in the room, the board, to tell us what are the top spots at the zoo where you feel the calmest, where you feel the most Blue Mind, and to let us know. And then we will indicate those in some way, maybe a blue dot on the ground, so that visitors can go and have a different way of exploring the zoo through a Blue Mind lens. Maybe it's 7 locations throughout the zoo. And so that was an idea that I thought would be sort of a relatively simple to execute and to get a bunch of people involved in the process and the selection. So
yeah, I think that's a wonderful idea, because the people who know the zoo the best, besides the staff that are working often behind the scenes, it's our visitors that are experiencing these beautiful, peaceful spots. Yeah. And who better than the folks in this room to ask after they've heard this to participate in just spending some time in the zoo and finding these places that resonate with you, and to help us find these blue zones. And then as we design new spaces, we can use what we've learned from the places that are already working and create the experience that makes us feel that way.
And our hope would be that other zoos and aquariums and science centers around the world would say, wow, that is amazing. We would like to be like you. And continue to take on that leadership role and that sort of nimble responsiveness to the latest, greatest science and putting that into practice.
So would people in this room be willing to participate in that simple? I hear some
Yes,
whoops.
right? No, we got one. We have 5 back there. We got over here. Yes.
So,
All right.
is there any other ideas in this room that you'd like to support what we're doing?
Yeah. Yes.
Sorry. So it's great. Everybody here, we buy in. That's not the problem.
Right.
We already bought in. What I want to see, Margot, where are you? We need to invite every single time, and you can help us, Katie, commissioners from Palm Beach, commissioners from Lake Worth, commissioners from Boynton Beach, which drives me crazy. Every time we develop in Boynton Beach, guess what? Open space is considered with the developers. They get credits for open space when it's concrete. Okay? That's not water, that's not land, it's not right. So how do you change it? You invite them to come here and hear things and engage. Now, that's challenging. They're not usually very willing to come, but unless we get them here, we can't just us be here. We need to invite them into our space and say, would you mind coming as our guests and just hearing what your community is talking about, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what I would encourage is you guys reach out in your communities to your commissioners and say, and become friends with them and say, I'm going to this really cool thing tonight. Would you come as my guest? Come to this thing, whatever.
Good idea. Very good idea. Other comments or ideas to add to the, yes?
Yes, hi. I think there are many opportunities for us as a community to come together and to learn about the blue mindfulness and blue mind in general. And so we have a group, small, but it started already here in South Florida. It's a Blue Mind group. We are in Facebook. So I think we can just found another venue here to create that dialogue. And we are people that we're just talking about the blue mind. So let's invite some other people here in this venue.
Right. Thank you.
And I'll add to that. This is Martha, by the way. She didn't introduce herself. My name is Paola Espitia. I'm a local marine biologist down here. I'm also a big participant in the Blue Mind movement. What Martha is speaking about is our Blue Mind group of South Florida. We have our meetup on Saturday in Pompano Beach. And you can find us on Facebook, Blue Mind Group of South Florida. This is exactly the intention, is to get more of us together in a room to experience the benefits of Blue Mind because it matters, and it especially matters for us living here with so much coastline in Florida. So I do hope you check us out, and you can always ask us questions afterwards.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Alan Gast, and I loved what you presented today, and I'd love to see this happen here at the zoo. I've got 2 young kids that are here all the time, all summer long, and I think that I'd love to see them have access to that, and I'd be happy to be part of the funding of that project. So.
Right. Good. Thank you. Thank you very much. That's great. Yeah.
Thank you, Gas Construction.
Right.
I know it's getting late.
Yes.
So if you're interested in participating, we're going to have a sign-up sheet by the book signing. So there are Blue Mind books out there. Please, it's my most gifted book. I've bought zillions of your books and handed them out. And so if you want to participate at the zoo and help us find our Blue Mind spot, please sign up and we'll reach out and get that going. But thank you. Thank you for participating.
Thank you very much.
So thank you, Jay.
Yes.
I have a present for you.
Oh, okay.
I'm getting out of the spotlight. But you really have a superpower. You're really an alchemist because you take something very ordinary, water, and turn it into something really extraordinary, which is a universal story that is critical for our survival, our thriving. So we have one of our zoo staff. We don't really pay her. Her name is Luna. You met her today. She's an
yeah.
otter.
Yeah.
And she painted you a blue mind
Oh,
painting.
very nice. Oh, that's great. I don't know if you can see it, but it says blue mind in otter. In otter language. It's very nice. Thank you.
Anyway, thank you, Jay, so much. Bank of America Hastings, thank you. So